Now, Syrian President Ahmed al-Shara is on a working visit to Azerbaijan today, following his first meeting with President Ilham Aliyev at the Antalya Diplomacy Forum in April this year. The two leaders have actually met, held comprehensive talks at the delegation level as well. Baku has consistently reaffirmed its support for Syria's territorial integrity and sovereignty. And since the change of power in Damascus last December, several high-level Azerbaijani delegations led by the Deputy Prime Minister and Deputy Foreign Minister have undertaken visits to the country. There's also been quiet talk in diplomatic circles of Azerbaijan playing a crucial role in facilitating normalization between Türkiye and Israel on Syrian soil. Joining me now in the studio are our very own Orkhan Amashov, and we'll also be joined by Arthur Block, Editor-in-Chief of Liberium. Orkhan, welcome to the studio once again.
Thank you, good to see you.
It's always great having you.
Thank you.
Now, are you surprised by the timing of this visit, Orkhan?
Absolutely not, Tilak. I'm not surprised at all, because we have been anticipating this meeting since early April, since Antalya Diplomacy Forum, when President Aliyev met with the interim leader of Syria. Since then, and the idea of him visiting Azerbaijan was initially proposed back then, in view of Azerbaijan's foreign policy regarding Syria since 8th of December 2024, in view of the level of coordination that we observe in the way Azerbaijan and Turkey interact regarding Syria, and in view of the general policy revolving around bringing Syria back from the cold, I am not at all surprised. It was a matter of timing. Mm-hmm. It wasn't a question of if but when, and I'm not surprised at all it's taking place. Azerbaijan is playing an active role now in the Middle East and Central Asia, in particular bearing in mind the coordination level between Baku and Ankara, and the general situation involving Syria, in particular after the visit of US President Donald Trump into the Gulf region, wherein he actually had a personal contact with Syrian leader. I'm not surprised this meeting taking place. I was surprised by the news when I heard about it, because I don't think that on the grapevine the news about Ahmed al-Shara, interim president of Syria, visiting Azerbaijan, been sort of vigorously circulating for the past couple of days. Absolutely not. There was an element of surprise, but it's not surprising at all that he's visiting Azerbaijan today.
Okay. All right. I've just been updated that we don't have our guest online yet, Arthur Block, but as soon as we do, hopefully, if we overcome technical issues, we'll ask him to join in the conversation. What role is Azerbaijan playing in Syria today?
So let's see what Azerbaijan has been doing in Syria. After 8th of December, there have been a couple of, as you mentioned in your introduction, a couple of high-level visits. Delegations led by Deputy Prime Minister and Deputy Foreign Minister. Azerbaijan is set to play an important role in terms of Syria's rebuilding efforts, in terms of infrastructure projects, and also, of course, in terms of some energy projects. It has been reported that the question of the export of Azerbaijan's natural gas to Syria is also under discussion. Of course, Europe is Azerbaijan's biggest market. Middle East is not going to replace Europe as Azerbaijan's primary focus, but Israel, for example, is using Azerbaijani energy resources. Why not Syria? This is one particular element, and also it's widely. Also, there's another element there. As you know, Syria is currently considering joining the Abraham Accords. Azerbaijan has got absolutely fantastic relations with Israel. This another component to be borne in mind. And plus, I think, although before the 8th of December, some of the actions taken by Israel and Turkey had sort of cumulatively led to the toppling of the government of Bashar al-Assad. After 8th of December, there had been very palpable and perceptible tensions on the ground between Israel and Turkey, and Azerbaijan, a country which has strong, deeply entrenched relations with Turkey, in particular solidified by virtue of the Shusha Declaration signed back in 2021, and also vital strategic partnership with Israel, was particularly perturbed by this fact, and Azerbaijan played an important role, as you mentioned in your introduction, by the way, in terms of making sure that the situation there would never reach the confliction point between Israel and Turkey, and there have been some talks thanks to Azerbaijan's good offices. So Azerbaijan is very, very much concerned about the relations there between Israel and Turkey, and Azerbaijan is doing its level best to make sure that in Syria their relations are in congruence.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and are there any concrete plans, economic or infrastructure projects currently underway between the two countries? You mentioned clearly that Azerbaijan will be looking to support Syria in terms of rebuilding and infrastructure projects as well. Anything tangible that we know?
Yeah, before coming to the point about tangible projects, Azerbaijan, of course, have always been, as a nation, Azerbaijan supporting Syria's territorial integrity and sovereignty. Mm-hmm. So there will be enough, I guess, diplomatic support in the first place, supporting the current government diplomatically. This is going to be one layer of espousal coming from Baku. As you know, before the 8th of December, relations between Damascus and Baku had not been at all brilliant, because of the support shown by the Bashar al-Assad to the separatism in Karabakh, and due to some other elements, due to the claims about the export of terrorism to Azerbaijan by the government of Bashar al-Assad. So relations have been very, very problematic, and therefore this new age, the post-8th of December age, is bringing some new hopes, and those hopes needs to be properly understood and put into practice. Apart from diplomatic support, I expect investment in Syria, in particular in construction business. I think that that's going to be one element. On humanitarian level, I expect Azerbaijan being involved in efforts revolving around rebuilding efforts. That's going to be another, of course, element. And of course, the energy sector, I think, is very, very key. Turkey and Azerbaijan are going to play an important role in Syria. Turkey is an essential, indispensable partner of the current government. And also, I would like specifically mention the situation involving the outlawed PKK, Kurdistan Workers' Party, which, as you know, the leader of this organization back in February of this year, they called on the members to lay down arms, and that sort of dissolution, of disbandment of this organization is taking place. We also know that in northeastern Syria, the area controlled by SDF, Syrian Democratic Forces, and which is recognized almost unanimously by everybody as a sort of an offshoot of PKK, is now being integrated as a region into central government. This is an important effort and an important ambition to solidify national unity in Syria, and any Azerbaijani investment in this region, economic projects, would boost Syria's sovereignty, territorial integrity, and future prospects in the region and beyond.
Okay, so it's clear that alongside Azerbaijan, Syria needs these immediate countries in the region more than any of the countries need Syria. But for argument's sake, with the investments, the assistance on the humanitarian level, as you mentioned, infrastructure projects, rebuilding efforts, how can Syria what can Syria bring to the table for Azerbaijan once they reach that certain level and gain momentum in terms of proper governance once again in the country?
That's a very, very good question indeed, Dilek, because it's a reciprocal arrangement, of course, and it's a foreign policy wherein you have to get the best out of that relationship. Each single party is going to follow the self-same principle. From Azerbaijan's perspective, you are building your geopolitical clout and presence by means of building your relations with the respective countries. What Azerbaijan can get this relationship? In order to understand what Azerbaijan can actually acquire by means of having close interaction with the government in Damascus, we need to look at what Azerbaijan was actually losing before the 8th of December by not having good, functional, constructive relations with the government in Damascus. There was no relation. That limited Azerbaijan's outreach in the Middle East. That effectively meant that any particular project, economic project involving gas pipelines or the export of oil by tankers was, that sort of element was incredibly limited by virtue of not having any sort of relationship. And also there was a danger emanating from Syria. So Azerbaijan's benefit in the context of this meeting and its possible ramifications can be understood in two fundamental ways. One is making sure that your outreach is as extensive as possible, your presence, your involvement, your economic presence is guaranteed, that is a major gain for Azerbaijan, because Azerbaijan is a country which needs to be understood in the context of the former Karabakh conflict. For 3 decades, this nation had been fundamentally perturbed by the fact of having this internal issue, the issue of separatism, actually the issue of illegal occupation by another country. Despite all of those economic projects and the export of gas resources to Europe and having this sort of foreign policy, multi-vectoral foreign policy, by virtue of the Karabakh conflict, Azerbaijan was so limited in its foreign policy ambitions. And after 2020, and in particular after September 2023, when this Karabakh issue was completely taken out of the agenda, Azerbaijan is pursuing a very bold foreign policy, wherein, of course, regional ownership is taking center stage. Azerbaijan is building a new regional order in this region, the South Caucasus. It's a sort of the rule maker country, and a peace deal, Turkish-Armenian normalization, effectively will create a new regional order here. Azerbaijan is actively engaged in Central Asia as being a key enabler of the Middle Corridor. And also we shouldn't forget about Middle East. And by virtue of having this allied interaction with Turkey, by virtue of having very good and functional relations with the regional government in northern Iraq, Azerbaijan is naturally expected to play an important role in Syria as well. And this moment is being particularly amplified by virtue of Azerbaijan's strategic partnership with Israel. It's about outreach, it's about influence, it's about boosting trade. Because after all, when you have all of those links together, cumulatively, that element of connectivity will boost your trade. And trade means, of course, financial resources, it means outreach, it means prosperity. And I think that Azerbaijan, as any other country in the region, is being very rational.
Okay, so I've been updated once again. We haven't been able to connect with Arthur. So just to tie it up with you, Orkhan, let's bring it back to today. We know that talks have taken place, both on a delegation level, comprehensive bilateral talk, well, one-on-one talks, I imagine, as well. We don't have any information as yet, or clarity rather. What do you anticipate the two leaders would have discussed at this stage? Do you think there'd be any signing of agreements, or just generally, what's your analysis?
Well, as you said, Dilek, we know very little. We knew that this meeting would take place at some point very soon. We definitely knew that. We had been anticipating this meeting since Antalya Diplomacy Forum. There is no element of surprise as such. We might have been surprised this morning when we heard this news, but after all, somebody who was keeping a good eye on what's happening in the region, I can tell you with absolute confidence that this was not an active rumor circulating on the grapevine. It was an active rumor. This is one thing, but we're not surprised by the fact of the meeting. I expect, on the basis of what Azerbaijan could reasonably be expected to be interested about and what the interests of current Syrian government are, I would expect some sort of declaration about investment, about infrastructure projects. We could see some provision related to Azerbaijan's natural gas exports to Syria, and I expect something of that nature. This is not a state visit. This is a working visit. They differ, of course. Naturally, state visit will take place at some point soon when the right circumstances are established. That will take place at some point later. Currently, what is absolutely clear to me and to everybody else is that Syria is being brought in from the cold. US is playing its role in this process, but of course, major players are regional actors. And those regional actors involve Turkey, Israel, some others, and also, of course, Azerbaijan.
Okay. Orkhan, it's always a pleasure. Thanure you for your insight and your time.